And welcome to everyone who's joining us today. We might get a few more people dropping in as we go along. I can see we've got 36 participants already on the webinar, and I've seen lots of fantastic introductions from Indonesia to South Africa, from Sweden to the Philippines. So welcome everyone. And the topic today is creating your own game-based learning in humanitarian context. So I'm really excited to introduce one of our experts, or one of the kind of sector experts on this. So my name is Lisa Morris. I'm not the sector expert, but I'll be helping to facilitate this webinar today. I'm a learning advisor at the Humanitarian Leadership Academy, based in London at the moment, or based in my home in London at the moment. And joining us today is Atish Gonsalves. So you might know Atish from some former webinars. He was previously Innovation Director at the Humanitarian Leadership Academy, and has recently transitioned to be founder and CEO of Gamoteca, a site that we're going to be exploring today. So welcome, Atish.
Thanks, Lisa.
So a few little bits of housekeeping before I hand over and we get started. I'm seeing some familiar faces or names in the chat box, which is fantastic. So I know that quite a lot of us have been learning together over the past few weeks. So welcome again. So this is all probably second nature to you now, but if you are joining one of our webinars for the first time, a couple of housekeeping points to help it go smoothly. So we really like interaction on the chat. We've used a webinar setting instead of a meeting setting. It means that you will be muted and there's no video. It also means it's easier on people's bandwidth. So we really encourage chat to introduce yourself. We might be asking for a few sort of yes or no pointers in the chat as we go along. We'll be using Menti links. So Menti is a link that you'll click on, and there might be a poll, or you might be asked to insert a question or an answer at some point. So please do go ahead and click on the link when we share it in the chat. If you can't access it because of your browser, just respond in the chat as well. And then there's a Q&A box. So if you go down to the bottom part of the Zoom screen that you're viewing, whether you're viewing on a computer or a mobile phone, you'll see a Q&A box. It's got two little speech bubbles. Any questions for Atish or for myself, please pop them in there, and then we can sort of capture them in a separate place and try to answer them as we go along or towards the end. And there's a raise the hand feature, but we don't tend to use it. So if you have a question, drop it straight into the Q&A, and we'll come to it as and when we can. Now, we're going to be using a game-based feature today, or an app, which works best on your mobile phone. So most of you have probably joined by a laptop. That's where Zoom works best. But if you can run and get your phone, if you don't already have it, then I recommend having a mobile phone ready. You can also do this all through a laptop or all through a phone. But if you do have two devices, that might make it easier. As I said, the session is recorded. We're going to be here for an hour and a half. I really encourage active listening. I've just told you to get your phone. It's going to be a big distraction. Please try and stay with us for the hour and a half, and keep involved, keep checking in on the chat, on the Q&A, and listening. And then lastly, please claim your badge after. I'll drop a link for an e-certificate or a digital badge after the webinar. You'll be asked a few questions to check your understanding and for us to see how you're going to apply the learning from this webinar. And then you'll get sent the badge via email. It's not an automated service, it's a manual service where we review. So there might be 24 hours delay in getting that badge, but you will receive it. And lastly, if you're going to be on Twitter, please go ahead. These are the Academy and Gamoteca handles, and that's the hashtag that we're using, hashtag HLW series. So please go ahead and tweet as we're live at the moment. And I think that's everything, Atish, if it's okay to hand over to you. But I'll be checking in with everyone on the chat as we go along. So once again, welcome. And I see we've got nearly 50 participants now. So great to see everyone joining.
Great, thanks so much, Lisa, and welcome everyone. Just to start, there was a question already from Paul Rene about whether they could play on the desktop as well. It is possible, and I will share the link when we get to it. However, the playing will be a little bit nicer if you do play it on the mobile phone. So make sure you have your mobile phone ready, and if possible, you can also download the Gamoteca app from the App Store. So when we reach the point of playing, then you're ready to go. So yeah, and I'm delighted to be back with a very different hat. So as Lisa said, I was previously Innovation Director at the Humanitarian Leadership Academy. I'm now founder and CEO at Gamoteca. So for today's session, I'm hoping that we can make this quite interactive. It is a bit difficult with this kind of format we're using with Zoom, but we're going to try to have enough time for you to interact with us through various tools, through Gamoteca. We want you to play a game. We'll have you even hopefully create a game, or at least start creating a game by the end of the session. So afterwards, you can also go and take some of the games that are already there and adapt them and use them in your own context. But before I kick off, I wanted to start with a short icebreaker. So Lisa will share the link in the chat window for a Mentimeter. If you have a phone, you can actually scan the QR code, which is on the screen. Lisa, are you able to first drop the Mentimeter link?
Oh yes, no problem. So I just dropped one link, but I would actually avoid that. So I'm going to drop a second link in, and it says participate. And if you click on the Menti, it says www.menti.com. So go to that second link that I dropped in.
Thank you. And I will, Lisa, I will do sort of a quick introduction as well using the other tool you've shared as well. So
great to see. So, oh wow, that didn't take long for people to start identifying their favorite games.
Great. So do please share what was the favorite game you played as a child? What brought you joy? I'm very keen to hear input from 50 participants.
And again, for anyone who can't access this link, so it's the second link under participate in the chat, feel free to write your answer to the question, what is your favorite childhood game, just in the chat, so we can also get your input here.
I can see hide and seek definitely is a winner here. So just for those of you also, if you haven't used Menti before, I think some of you have joined the Zoom webinars before. You've seen we've used Mentimeter. It's a great tool to sort of do these types of interactive exercises online, and it's a free tool as well. So if you are running your own trainings, I think it's a great tool to use for running these kinds of exercises. Great. So now we've got some really nice inputs, and I can see there's a typo as well in hide and seek, unless that's a variation of hide and seek for coronavirus. But no, we've got some interesting games from Lego to capture the flag to chess to Monopoly. So yeah, no, thank you for sharing. Just Lisa, are you able to share your other link as well one more time for the check-in? So it would be nice as well if everyone is able to introduce themselves on the chat window. So I'm just going to go back to the chat. If you can introduce yourselves to other participants, just with your name, where you're from. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a tool. So this is another tool that I find quite nice when running sessions like this, which are a bit hard to make interactive. So do share your name, where you're from, and then that one thing that brings you energy and joy. So the tool that Lisa shared, this is a tool again that you can use. It comes up with a random icebreaker, and you can use this in face-to-face or virtual trainings. But what I'm going to ask you to share now is one thing that brings you energy and joy as well. So do introduce yourself in the chat window to each other. So just put your name in and where you're from, and one thing that brings you joy. So I'm going to start. I'm going to type in my name there, Atish. I'm from London, and I think making pizza brings me joy. So it'd be great if everyone. Yes, thanks, Rave. So please do continue to introduce yourselves through the session. It'll be great to try to create some connections as well between the participants on the call. Thanks, Rana. Well, we've got quite a wide selection of countries people are joining from. So again, this is a tool which Lisa has shared, and please feel free to use this as well in trainings that you are running. So I'm going to ask you one more question about yourselves, and I can see there's been more games that have been added since. I'm going to ask you for your experience with game-based learning. So if you can go back to the Menti link. Apologies, Lisa, I keep jumping around, but if you are able to just share the link one more time.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just dropping that link in the chat again. So again, it's that Menti link which you clicked on before. If it's still open, you should see a new slide coming up. Otherwise, back in the chat is the link again.
So please, there are two sliders. So if you can drag the sliders in terms of your experience both playing and creating game-based learning. So if you have experience having played humanitarian learning game, game-based learning, or if you have some experience creating game-based learning, please do use the sliders to drag them on a scale of no experience to I can do this in my sleep. So I'm very comfortable doing this. So I can see there's a fair amount of experience here on playing, less experience in creating games. So so this is from about 30 participants now. Yeah, I can see. So about a fair amount of experience on playing, but much less on creating. So hopefully the session today will be very helpful. And I'm seeing some wonderful introductions as well there. I just saw one from Grace from the Philippines, who likes eating and chatting brings me energy and joy. It's something that we're all missing these days as well during the lockdown. Excellent. Thank you so much for contributing. And so hopefully this gives me a bit of a sense for the group as well. So I'll try to tailor my presentation based on your input. So thank you for participating. Okay, so I will start then into a very short presentation on gamification and serious games. Just some basic definitions, some examples, and then we'll go into a little quiz as well to sort of test our knowledge. So I'll start with the basic definition of gamification. So according to the Oxford Dictionary, the use of game elements in another activity, usually to make that activity more interesting. So that's the Oxford dictionary definition of what gamification is, where we're taking any activity, doesn't have to be learning, but trying to make it more interesting by adding in game elements. So it's not really about playing games, it's about learning from games. It's about trying to solve real world problems. It's trying to motivate people, behaviors to change motivations, to make something a bit more fun. So game elements could be things like badges, rewards, points, and so even if you think of like if you go to a coffee shop and they give you like a stamps card, and you collect 5 stamps and you get a free coffee. So that's a form of gamification as well. So it's not necessarily only about learning, but it is about sort of trying to incentivize certain behaviors, making it more interesting, and usually done in real life. So this is usually gamification is embedded into a real life situation, but you're trying to influence sort of positive behaviors. And in terms of sort of the definition of gamification, I also want to share a nice sort of a breakdown between what I'd call game mechanics and game dynamics. So this comes from a partner who the Humanitarian Leadership Academy has worked with, Sea Salt Learning, and we worked with Julian Stott, who leads Sea Salt Learning, and he talks about game mechanics and game dynamics. So when we think about childhood games, we were talking about whether there was Lego or football. So the mechanics are the physical objects, the pieces, so scores, badges, the rules of the game. But the game dynamics are, why are you actually gamifying something? Are you trying to create strategy? Are you trying to create teamwork? Are you trying to create a sense of loss or risk or competition or collaboration? So I think that's a very important aspect to keep in mind, because there is sometimes quite a lot of criticism from people on gamification, because sometimes people focus quite a lot on the game mechanics, which is around points and badges, but they don't think about why are they actually gamifying and what are the game dynamics behind the reason to do that. And I think on the right side as well, you'll see some more game dynamics around sort of competition, strategy, risk, reward, collaboration. A lot of games, for example, will add competition to score leaderboards and points. But actually, a lot of really interesting games focus more on the collaboration aspects, where people working together in a team to solve a bigger quest or a bigger challenge. And sometimes people actually appreciate collaboration more than competition, or collaboration combined with competition, where they're working a team but competing against another team. So I think it's important to keep this distinction between how are you gamifying with the mechanics, and then why are you gamifying with the dynamics. And as Lisa shared, this is with a partner, Sea Salt Learning. We also have some interesting toolkits on the website on social learning, which includes elements of game-based learning. So then moving from gamification to then serious games. So a serious game then, according to the definition, is a game designed for a primary purpose other than pure entertainment. So the serious here is referring to sort of the sectors or the fields where it's usually being used. So like military or defense, healthcare, emergency management, city planning, engineering, or humanitarian aid. It usually includes things like simulations, like flight and medical simulations. So the best example of a serious game is the flight simulator that a pilot uses for a number of hours before the pilot is even allowed to fly in a plane, or that the pilot is able to practice some new skills on before they fly a new type of plane, for example. So serious game, the participants know that they are not in real life. They know that they're in a game, but they know they're doing it for a higher purpose. They're knowing they're doing it to improve their proficiency or to test out certain types of responses, to see how well prepared an organization or an individual is. So here, and I think I have some examples of areas like crisis response, health, and scientific research, where serious games are used quite a lot. And the focus here is on it's not real life, and it's usually focusing on a higher purpose beyond pure entertainment. So there's a useful sort of spectrum here of games, gamification, and serious games. So on the left, you have games with a higher purpose, where it's not real life. And on the right, you've got reality. So it's real life, but you're trying to gamify. You're combining game elements to make real life more interesting and more fun. So again, another example in gamification on the right side could be an induction onboarding program, where you're adding different badges or points for different parts of the induction journey as a new staff member is joining an organization. So the staff member is really being inducted or really being onboarded in the organization, but they're still sort of collecting points as they're going through that induction journey. And on the left side, as I said, you've got simulations in the humanitarian sector. You've got various types of simulators for pilots and other types of motor skills. So that's hopefully a useful spectrum. But having said that, you've noticed that the circles actually overlap with each other. So you'll see that it is possible that in a game, you could have elements of gamification where the new staff member is being onboarded in real life. But you could also add in scenarios which have elements of serious gaming, which means they are imagining a scenario in their onboarding journey, which isn't real life. So it's kind of a serious game. So they can overlap as well. But it's just a useful thing to understand as you start to design your own games. So in terms of a case study for how game-based learning has been used at the Academy and on the Kaya platform, the focus that the Academy took was trying to sort of scale human engagement in learning. So a lot of online learning tends to be very self-guided. So you join an online course and learn by yourself. But what we were trying to do was trying to add role-playing scenarios, peer-to-peer learning, simulation exercises as part of the learning experience on Kaya. So if you go on Kaya and search for games, or I can share a link at the end as well on a number of games that are available on the Academy website and on Kaya. We've included games like onboarding, on being putting yourself in the shoes of refugees. So the game on the top right, Forcefully, was designed with the Swedish Red Cross youth. Designed a really interesting game on coaching and mentoring, which is meant to be a complement to the online coaching and mentoring course. But you'd never really become a coach or mentor just by watching someone else coach and mentor. You need to actually practice being a coach or mentor, and the game's purpose is to try to get you to practice being a coach with another player, and that other player is then giving you feedback and rewards and points for how you're coaching them. And similarly, we have games on challenging gender biases, on design thinking. So you will get a chance to try out a couple of these games in a few minutes, but I do want to encourage you to go on Kaya and engage with these. But the purpose here was really scaling human engagement, trying to build more human-to-human connection in the learning experience. So, and as part of the rollout of the games, we've also been collecting feedback from users. So this is feedback we had collected from about 90 users, and we've seen sort of, if you're comparing game-based learning to other formats, we've seen quite a good, let's say, feedback in terms of their response and how they would compare game-based learning to other online formats. So quite a favorable sort of feedback on that scale, as well as on whether they would want, whether people would want to engage further with learning. So there's clearly a demand and clearly a need for this type of format. But I would caveat it by saying, if it's done correctly and if it's done properly. The other point as well on the user feedback is, as the Academy was building out games, we're iteratively sort of rolling it out to users, testing with them, going back to the drawing board and continuously improving. So I think it is really important that as you try out any format, not just game-based learning, that you're constantly going to your users, asking them, does this work for you, listening to their feedback and using that to improve the learning experience. So I'm going to stop here and do another quiz based on sort of your the slides that I just did on serious games and gamification. So Lisa, if you are able to again drop in the link, thank you so much.
Yeah, so once again in the chat you'll find the same Menti link. I've just dropped it in the chat, or if you still have that Menti open in the browser, you'll be able to open it and you should see all those spinning animals right now.
Yes, I can see people. So we've got 24. Lisa, how many do we have on the call at the moment?
Just over 50, Atish.
Okay, so we'll give it a few more seconds for people to join. Last few seconds to join the game, and then we have a little bit of a competition. So we've got three. I'm going to share three scenarios with you, and you're going to have to vote between is it a game, is it gamification, or is it a serious game? Okay, I think we have enough. I'm going to start the game now. Great. So the first example is in a number of cities, they've included these musical steps, so trying to incentivize people to take the stairs, and when people walk on the stairs, it plays music instead of using the elevator on the right. So you have 8 seconds to vote. Good. Yes, so that is correct. So I think most of you got it right. That was gamification, because that was real life, that people were actually really walking up the stairs. But the city councils had included the musical steps to incentivize positive behaviors for people to walk rather than taking the escalator. So let's look at the leaderboard to see where we are. So you do get extra points for responding a little quicker as well. So we've got Geisha, who is the top at the moment. Okay, so are we ready for the next one? It is quite a short response time, so the second one, maybe before I bring up the question, is about ICRC, and ICRC has been using um, um, a game called Fortnite for training people about international humanitarian law and the rules of war. So it's quite a tough game, but it's using a popular gaming platform called Fortnite. So I'm going to bring up the question, and you should have a chance to vote. So is this ICRC game is it gamification or a serious game? Yes, I think, yep, that's correct. So most of you got that correct again. So the reason this is a serious game is that it is not real life, that people are within this Fortnite environment, but they are in there because they are there for a higher purpose of understanding the rules of engagement, the rules of war, the rules of international the conflict in humanitarian settings. So that's why it is a serious game. Okay, let's check the leaderboard, and then we have one final question for the quiz. Let's see who's the new leader. It's all quite close. Okay, I think we have a new winner. I think we've got Carlos, who's on top now, but it's very close. Okay, the last question. So before I go to the last question, this is using a popular gaming platform called Minecraft, and UN Habitat has been using this to bring community participation to reimagine public spaces, especially in war-torn countries. So I am going to bring up the question. I'm going to ask you, is this gamification or serious game? So this one is a little bit more confusing. Okay, so we've got an even split there, and the reason here it is a bit confusing because it is actually a serious game because they are in Minecraft, they are in a virtual world, so it's not real life, but they are trying to design something which maps quite a lot to real life. So this is what I mentioned, that it's not always very clear. Sometimes there can be an overlap between gamification and serious gaming. So in this case, I've put this as a serious game, but it could actually be gamification as well because they're trying to improve Nairobi and the urban planning spaces there. So both answers could technically be correct. But because I'm facilitating, so I choose that it's a serious game, and let's see who is the winner then here. So I think we might have Carlos. Yes, so we do have Carlos as a winner. So again, this is just a little fun, just as a test between serious gaming and gamification. But the tool again I'm using here is Mentimeter. You can create these types of quizzes well for training. It's a bit similar to Kahoot as a tool, but it's also available for free to use if you want to use in a training. Great. I am now going to go to even more interactive part of the session, where I am going to ask you now to actually download the Gamoteca app if you haven't already, and make sure you have registered and verified your email. What I'm going to ask you then to do is pick one of the games, either pick Challenger, Gender Assumptions, or pick Staying Motivated While Working Remotely. So first you need to download the game. I'm going to, while you're downloading it, I'll do a little bit of a demo as well. So for those of you who can't download, I'll share the link for the player in the browser, so you can also play on the browser. But I would say the experience is a little bit better on the phone. what I encourage you to do is both these games are two-player games. So once you've downloaded the app, registered, and verified your email, you can then click on the browse button. So just going to bring up the player again. So it should look something like this, and you'll see sort of under featured games, you'll see a number of games. So there's a number of games that I recommend for this session that you either try challenge your gender assumptions, or they're staying motivated while working remotely. And I'm going to bring this up on my phone as well, so you see what I see on my phone, and I'm going to invite myself.
Atish, can I jump in with a quick question? We've had a question about whether you can sign into Gamoteca through your Kaya account.
Yes, you can. So I'll show that. That's a good question. So Lisa, do you see my phone screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a very good question. So I am going to sign out here. So for those of you who want to sign in, so apologies, I realize there's a little bit of a delay. I'm just going to wait, give it a second. Okay, so on the sign in button, you'll see a K at the bottom. Apologies, there's almost a 5-second delay, so it's taking a little bit of time. But if you open the app, you will see a K, and here you can actually use your Kaya login to sign in. So you only need to do this one time. So I'm going to log in now with my Kaya details here. There's a couple of questions about the game code. I'll just give me 1 second, Robert. You actually can just browse and join any of the games and invite someone else. So yeah, so you should be in the screen and you should have been able to log in. So the enter game code and some of the games you see here, that is when a facilitator is organizing a game. So if you are organizing a game, and you can use a game code, a bit like we did on Mentimeter. But what we're going to do here is we're going to click on the Browse tab and click on See All. And I am going to join the Challenge Your Gender Assumptions game. And I'm going to click play. Lisa, just stop me if it's going too fast or it's not clear from your side, because there's a bit of a delay that I'm seeing between my phone and the sharing.
Thanks, Atish. Yeah, for anyone in the chat, just jump in at any point if you have any questions while we're going through this. And again, this can work on your browser as well. Atish, I just want to mention, we've asked people to download. This is a free app and there's no associated costs.
No, it's free to play, and it's actually going to be free to create as well, so not just to play. So yeah, I've gone to browse, I've found one of the games, I've clicked play, I'm going to click join. So this is a 2-player game, so I'm going to pick one of the player roles. I'm going to pick player 1. So after this, you should see this button for invite players. So you've joined as one of the roles, now you want to invite a colleague or friend. So I am going to click the invite player option, and I'm going to actually message this to myself. So I'm going to invite myself to play. So I would encourage you to play this with another person, not like me. I'm playing, it's a bit sad that I'm playing by myself. So I should have received now a message here from myself with a link. You can send this via email or text, and you can do this also from the computer, the same thing. So I'm going to click on this link, and now I'm going to play a second player as a player on the computer. So I'm going to try to see if this works. I'm going to bring the phone browser on the right and my computer browser on the left. So now, so imagine that you've invited your friend, they've received or colleague, and they've received the link. So they're going to click join game from the link that you invited them. And you can now see that the game has started for both the players. So at the bottom, you can see the team, which is formed as far here. I'm playing one as a Gamoteca role and one as a Kaya role. So I am going to click the start game here, and I am going to play it on the phone as well. And so this is the screens you should see. So it's a bit similar on the phone and the browser. So you will get a welcome screen. I'm going to play it browser here. So there's a very good question. Does everyone need to have a Gamoteca account to join, or do they just need to download it? They do need to create an account, because once they create the account, and they also need to verify the email as well, they will receive an email when they join the game, and they'll also importantly get an email when the game starts. So you do need it to be able to be. It's also a security thing that you're only playing with people who are verified. But also that they receive notifications when the game starts. So I'm going to click complete here. So I'm not going to go through the whole game here on the demo, but what I do want to show, so this game was designed with a partner in Jordan, and they developed this game on addressing the issue of toxic masculinity in Jordan, coming from the he for she movement. So we worked with them to create this game, which is challenging various gender norms and biases that people have. So this game is all about it poses a number of scenarios and then gets the two players to respond to them and share with each other. So they're not sharing it with the computer, but they're sharing actually with each other their opinions or biases. So I'm going to click complete here. So they will see a number of statements, and I'm just giving the phone a bit of time to catch up as well, but I'll continue maybe playing on the.
I've got a question while you're uploading, or while the phone is catching up from Eleanor about whether this is a two-player game only.
Gender game has been designed as a two-player game, but we do also have a number of games on which we have designed as one-player games as well. So the whole purpose when we talked about gamification on Kaya was about creating more human-to-human learning. So that's why a number of the games are two-player games. But there are also a number of games which are one-player too. So maybe Lisa, I can bring up the link here on the games and share this also in the chat window. So on this link on the Academy's page, you will find a number of one- and two-player games. The gender game here is a two-player game though. So I've shared that link. Okay, so I'm just going to go back here. I just want to show you now very quickly how the two participants are able to share with each other. So here they've seen an opinion about women's role in sort of housework at home, and so they have to share some feedback. So so I'm going to write my response from the phone and from the computer. So I'm going to say this is my feedback. So I'm not going to write. I'm just going to share this on the statement. And I'll share this. So it's real feedback that you are. I'm not actually providing real feedback here, but this is going to go now to the player on the phone. And I'm going to share some feedback from the player on the phone. And you can see that I've also received feedback from the phone. So apologies, the screen you see on the right, for some reason I'm getting quite a lot of delay on the phone, so you're not really seeing what's actually on my phone at the moment. But this is, so if there was feedback shared by the other player, that comes to this player, and so this can go back and forth. So this is a very simple game of 3 statements that the 2 players are looking at together, but the whole purpose here is encouraging peer-to-peer sharing and co-creation between the 2 participants. Um, so Hela had a question that my player didn't accept. So do find another player. The other tip as well, so Hela, if you want to test this out, is you could create another Gamoteca account and play as the other player, like I am doing on a browser, so you can test it out like that. But I'd encourage you to play it with someone else, because the whole purpose here is to challenge your gender biases and challenge your gender assumptions, and do it with another person. So just make sure you find someone who does accept, and then you can play it. The other game I would encourage you to also have a look at is the staying motivated while working remotely. So again, you can go and browse the games here, or join from the links on Kaya, and that's also sort of encouraging people to sort of keep each other motivated, especially during the lockdown. So you are on Monday, you are sharing what you're excited about, what are the projects you're going to work on, what are your challenges, and you share this with another person. And then Wednesday, you are sharing something that brings you joy, and on Friday, so you look back. So it's again encouraging people to stay connected. But there's a number of other games here as well that are available to play. I don't know, Lisa, if you wanted to add anything about gamification also at the Academy, before I move on to the game creation part.
Thanks so much, Atish. And yeah, it's great to see the examples coming up. And I was able to play with someone who had dropped the invite link in the chat. So I think that was a great idea. So if anyone's kind of waiting for a player to join, you can always drop your invite link in the chat and someone else might click on it. Nothing else at this stage, but yeah, we've shared the links about the way that we're using some gamification and serious games at the Academy, and I'm always happy to follow up with examples of that.
Thanks, Lisa. Just I'll just pause here as well briefly to see maybe we can use the Q&A to have some reflections, Q&A from the group before I go on to talking a bit about Gamoteca and game creation. Please do ask any questions. I'm aware that not all of you would have been able to have played if you were not able to find someone else to play with, but hopefully sort of just by observing sort of what I was doing, you were also able to sort of get a sense for how we can have more games where it's not just you playing by yourself, but you're playing with someone else. So if there are any questions, please do post them in Q&A. I'm just checking the chat window as well. Okay, I don't see any questions. Any more questions? Okay, so someone asked how was I sharing my phone on the screen. So I'm using a tool called Reflector. This is not a free tool, unfortunately, but what you essentially do is you make your computer a AirPlay server, and so I'm able to stream my phone screen to the computer. So it's a little bit technical, but it's a tool called Reflector that I've used to basically share my screen from the phone to the computer. But you could see that I was having some delay issues as well in doing that. No worries. We have a question from Sohaila. Does the game have any restrictions like in Kahoot? Is it limited by the number of words we use? There's no restrictions as such. The idea is to sort of have a bite-size, shorter learning exchanges between players. So here we were just exchanging text. The idea is that you're not writing like a long paragraph, just a few sentences. So it's meant for people to sort of just share short pieces of learning between each other. But in other games, you will see instead of text, you can also upload a video. You can share a photo with each other. So there are other types of interactions that you can do. In addition, I'll also show you when I get to the game creator, you can also make choices. So you are interacting with each other. So one person shares a statement or a photo or a video with the other player. And then the first player can then make a decision to say, how did player two, how was their feedback, or how did they do in this task? And so you can also make decisions. So it could be like a branch decision that you make there, but you can combine that also with some subjective feedback as well. And when creating questions, again, no restrictions in terms of the number of questions you can create. So yeah, you can create as many questions as you want. So thanks for all of the questions coming. Okay, so I will move on then to just a very short introduction on Gamoteca, and then I will show you how to actually create your own games. So now you've all hopefully registered as players. You should be able to use the same account also as creators to create your games as well. But I'll just bring up a short presentation first. Okay. So just very briefly, I think so. A number of you have experienced now Gamoteca as a player. Gamoteca more broadly is a mobile learning platform and authoring tool. So that was developed for non-technical learning experts in order that they can create game-based learning in minutes. So the idea here is that you don't have to be an app developer or quite technical to be able to develop apps or be very comfortable even with technology. That if you have a good training idea, learning idea, you should be able to go into Gamoteca and be able to create your own game-based learning. Um, and this again, as you heard me say it a few times, this comes from these values that we have around really focusing on human-centered approaches to learning. That the learning is not self-guided only, that's much more social, and then it's using technology to enable that sharing. And this project actually came as a research project. It originally started while I was with the UNHCR, and we were looking at how we could create serious games, particularly on things like security training and other types of simulations to bring real life settings to life through games. And then the goal was to then make the creation of those kinds of games quite accessible and customizable by all trainers in the humanitarian space. And so over the last few years, we've been creating this Gamoteca platform as a collaborative effort between a number of humanitarian organizations, a number of other local organizations, to really democratize the creation of game-based learning. So it's a little bit of a history. In terms of what you can do after the call, you should be able to then use Gamoteca to create your own digitized versions of game-based learning, simulations, team exercises. It should be able to support interactions between players like we started to do now, and provide feedback. You can create this type of situational games, tabletop exercises, and you can play it on, I think the best experience is on a mobile phone. And you can also create the kind of serious games I mentioned that like in the UN, where you're trying to create like a security drill, for example, or a fire safety drill. These kinds of games can also be easily created. And then, as I mentioned a few times, we're really focused quite a lot on making it quite simple. When you go in, you will have access to a number of templates, so you don't have to start completely from scratch. You can start from a completely new game. I will show you today how to create a game completely from zero, but you can build on some of the existing game templates, like the gender game, like the staying motivated. There's a design thinking game, and there's a few other games that you can use as a starting point. As you're building the game, you can keep previewing what you're building on the game designer before you actually publish it to be played on the phone. It has been optimized not just to fit the screen, but also you get notifications. So if one player submits something and the second player, the idea is not that you're playing it only within 15 minutes or 1 hour. You could be playing this over 1 week. And when player one completes a certain task, player two receives then a notification, which is easier on a phone. On the browser, you don't really receive notifications that easily. So it's a good way of keeping the game moving. We had a question about, can you make single and multiplayer versions? So you can have one-player games. The way I think where Gamoteca can make the single player interesting is that you are able to reflect on things that you've shared. So we have a game on looking at crisis from the perspective of a volunteer, and you have to make some difficult decisions. And later on in the game, you self-reflect on some of the decisions you made. So That's how it could work for a single player. Otherwise, it could just look like a micro learning or a mobile learning course. But to really have that sort of reflection and gamification, I think it does really well when you're sharing and reflecting, ideally between players. And then as a facilitator, you can live monitor all the game sessions. So if you're the trainer and you've pushed this out for a number of people, you can see in real time how the participants are doing, what are participants submitting. You can also interject as a facilitator and provide feedback. So you're encouraging sharing between participants, but you as a facilitator can also contribute as well. So I promised you that will be a very short presentation. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to actually create a game. So the simplest way is just go to gamoteca.com and click the sign in button. So this will then take you to a sign in page. You can use exactly the same login details that you did when you were signing up as a player. The first thing you will see when you come in on the left is you'll see the sort of your personal space where you have about 6 games which have been placed there as templates. So you can publish these, test these, and use these for your own learners, and you can even edit these or make copies of these. We've also got this concept of workspaces where if you want to collaborate with a colleague or your team, so you can create a new workspace here. And this is how, for example, all the Kaya games are in one place, and you can then use the settings button to decide who is working with you in this team. So you can design games together with another person, or with other people in your team. But today I'm going to just focus on your personal space to create your own game and to publish this. So I'm going to make a very simple version of the staying motivated while working remotely, because we don't have a lot of time. And I'm going to do this right screen by screen. So feel free to follow along, or you can watch the recording and do this later yourself. So I'm going to call this just a staying motivated while working remotely. The demo.
While you're doing this, Atish, can I jump in with a few quick questions?
Sure.
So one is about, is there any paywall if you do from Manuel Money? Is there going to be a paywall if they build something? Another one is, can this actually be embedded on a website? So if they want to potentially play offline or not direct straight to Gamoteca, and can you invite players without them having to join and log in?
Sure. So on the business model or the paywall question, so our goal is to keep Gamoteca playing and creation free for everyone. We are working on a pro version, which will allow you to have more workspaces where it's basically targeting larger teams, larger organizations. So for those types of organizations, there will be a small subscription fee. But for most people who want to create and play games, you should be able to just use the platform for free. So we are quite committed to doing that and making sure that that democratization is very much part of our DNA and part of our values. For the offline question, because the platform has been designed in such a way that it's essentially exchanging messages and content between participants, it is not really possible to make it completely offline, but the amount of bandwidth it uses is dependent on the media you're using. So if you're going to work in a place where the bandwidth is really low, I would encourage you not to use a lot of videos, but focus more on text exchanges. So it'll use the same amount of text as you, let's say, use in a WhatsApp message. So that's the amount of data it'll use. We've used a technology platform called Firebase. It's a bit technical, but it's a Google platform to make it really sort of optimized for various settings. But you can't completely make it offline just because you're exchanging things between participants, and so it does have to go through a server. I also see a question about other languages. So at the moment, you can put You can put content into any language. The platform itself at the moment, the buttons and all are not in other languages, but we are planning to eventually translate the buttons, etc. But when you're putting content in, you can put it in any language, and that includes Arabic as well. So in the game editor, you can change the direction as well from right to left. So that particularly for right to left languages like Arabic. Any more questions, Lisa?
No, go ahead. There are some other questions, but I can keep jumping in. So maybe go ahead.
Okay, let me go ahead for let's say for about I'll do like a 10-minute, 15-minute demo on just being able to create a very simple game, and then I'll make sure we have at least 15 minutes for Q&A. I can see a lot of questions coming in, which is good to see the amount of engagement. So I'm just going to bring up some images here. So I'm just going to yeah, let's just pick one of these images. So this is, I'm just giving it a cover image. And I can also add sort of a description. So this game is colleagues who want to stay connected and in touch during the lockdown. So this is sort of the overarching description. Then in the edit design is where you actually design what will happen in the game. The core part of the game is all based on roles. So here you can click the edit roles. You can say this could be staff member 1, or so you could say this could be, instead of player 1, you can say it's staff 1 and staff 2, or player 1, or you can just leave it to player 1 and player 2. It's completely up to you. So in other games, we've had a coach and a coachee. So here, they aren't really playing a role as such. They're just playing themselves. So I'm just going to leave it as player 1 and 2, but you can change it. This is also where you can add a facilitator role who can also come in and interject. So if you do add a facilitator role, for example, then you will see their role as well on the side. So I will start by creating some very basic screens, and you can obviously, and I'll show you where there's a lot of help articles for being able to create more complex things. So I'm just going to put a welcome screen here, or welcome to the game. And so you can see everything that I'm doing then is appearing on the right. You can see what it will look like for the players. So I'm just going to do like a little, I'm just going to use the same image here. And so this is just a simple, so this is the kind of media you can use, image, and you can actually have a video as well. For the tasks, the simplest thing that you probably saw me do was hit the complete button, but you can get the player to then either hit the complete button, or the player can make a choice, upload some text, upload a photo from their phone camera, upload a video from their camera as well. And you can assign score or points to any screen. And you can also add conditions. I'll get to the conditions in 1 second. So I'm going to just click save, because it's a very simple introductory welcome screen here. So you have the basic screen here. I want the second player to have pretty much the same screen. So I'm just going to make a copy to player 2, and they have the same screen here. So you've basically designed a very simple welcome for both of them. Now I want the player to be introduced to their role. So I'm going to say you're going to be playing this role. So I add a create button here. Say your role, and say you will be just playing yourself. Yeah. Here you could have given them a character of like someone like the coach, or it could be like even something fun. But I'm just going to give them. They're just going to play themselves. And I'm going to upload let's say a photo here. You can, as I said, you can use video. I'm just trying to sort of not take too long at the moment over this. So I'm just going to put a simple photo here again. And here you notice in terms of the conditions, what's happened is it's by default, because I pressed the plus button after the screen, it said that player 1 should have completed welcome to the game before this screen is displayed. So essentially what the preconditions are saying is for this screen to appear for the player, what conditions should have been met before this screen happens. So by adding this condition essentially, and if I bring my mouse over this, you'll see that this screen lights up here. It means that when player one completes this role and then they click the complete, only then the screen appears. If I did not add the condition, both the screens would have appeared at the same time, which is not ideal for the player experience. I'm going to again make a copy of this for player two. But here you're going to see now the condition is still on for player one, that the welcome game should have been completed. So I'm going to click this and I am going to change this to player two. Although, so here now for the role to appear, you complete the corresponding player's welcome screen. You can actually now design it in such a way that both of the players should have completed the first welcome for the second screen to unlock. So for that, you just need to go here, and where I had the condition, I can add another condition. So I can say, actually, I want both of them to have completed the welcome before the next thing happens. So I want them to be coordinated as they're playing. I don't want one going off by themselves. I want them both to be playing this quite side by side. So here I'm going to add the same. I'm going to add also a condition for player one to have completed the welcome game screen, and now both of them have both dependencies. So this is very simple. So far, I've just welcomed them, I've introduced them to a role, but even then, I would really encourage you as you're building out the game to keep testing the game. So you can always use the test button here, so you can see what it looks like for the players, and you can click the complete button here, and you can see that then I don't get the new screen because it's waiting for player two to also complete. And then both the screens are unlocked for both the players. So they're both coordinated at the same time. So this is sort of how you create very basic screens. I'm going to add something a little bit more complex now. I want player one to upload something. In this case, I want them to take a selfie and share it to introduce themselves to their with their teammate. So introduce yourself. So this could be, you could have like a text introduction. You could have a introduce your to your teammate. And here, instead of like getting them to do a boring sort of text, I'm going to actually get them to take a photo of themselves. And I will also add an image. So the image here is just to show them what to do. So I think I have a photo. Yeah. I have a photo of someone taking a photo. But essentially, the important thing here is that you've clicked on this upload photo option. So this allows the user to either upload a photo from their camera or their camera roll. And here you can see they should have completed their previous task, which is correct. So here now what's happened is player one has uploaded the photo. But now I want player two to see what player one has done. So I want them to see the selfie they've taken. So I'm going to add one screen here after the role. I'm going to say view team introduction. And here I can say view your team photo. And here I'm going to use this option for quote answer. So what quote answer does, it allows you to take anything that any player has uploaded in the game prior, obviously, to this screen, and allows you to include it here. So you are able to include something. And this includes also media that you yourself have uploaded. So remember I talked about reflection. So you could come back and also self-reflect on something that you uploaded previously in the game at a later stage. So here, player two will be able to see now player one's photo, and then you can get them to share some feedback. So I'm going to just say they can either give some feedback or they can just hit the complete button. So I'm just going to keep it simple at the moment and just leave it. You've also noticed that I haven't really been assigning scores at this stage. So I'm just keeping it very simple for the moment. So again, I'm going to come here and test the game now. So I complete the introduction, the role, okay, so here I noticed that this thing came up, whereas I did not want the view team introduction to come up before they had actually uploaded their photo. So the mistake I made here was, whilst this was dependent on this, the team introduction should have also had a condition for for player one's introduction. So I'm going to add another condition here to say that player one should have also uploaded the photo, or introduced themselves. And now this should work correctly. So now if I test this out, hit complete. Yep, so this person is waiting. Now I use the camera to take a photo. And I use this, and I submit this. And I can then see the photo that team player one submitted. So this is a very basic sort of setup. I would start with games like this. You can then make it more complicated by adding in choices. So for example, you could have had the team member then make a choice and said, okay, now what would you like to do? Or you could have had them send text feedback that player one sees. So you can then continue to add more complexity, but I'd start very simple and then add in more complexity around sort of other types of tasks that you want the player to do, whether it's making a choice or uploading text. So this is how you'd create it. I'll give a very quick demo of how you would be able to also publish this game as well.
Atish, before that, I wonder if I can jump in with a couple
Sure.
of other questions that have been coming up
Yep.
In the chat. I think a couple of people joining us today might be looking at the design, at the play function on Gamoteca rather than the design. So if they're not seeing this option to design, were you able to direct them for how they could see that?
Sure.
And then again, that question about languages, how many languages does the game hold? And then I might come back to you with a couple more detailed questions.
Sure. So let's start with the first simple one. So there's two aspects to Gamoteca. One is as a player. So most of you manage to play the game on your phone. So you just by downloading the app. The game creator, which I'm in, you just go to gamoteca.com and just click sign in. And this will then bring you essentially here. What I will do now, just to make it even simpler, I will log out. So you can see what I see. So I'm going to click sign in here. Apologies, it's already logged in. I'll just log myself out, Lisa, and then.
No worries. And I note that actually, I think I misread. So it wasn't number of languages, it's number of players. So I think you were demoing a kind of 3-player game. And then earlier we tried a 2-player game.
Sure. Yeah, just 1 second. So yeah, so if you click the sign in button, this will bring you to a very similar sign in screen on your phone. And you can use exactly the same methods for login as well. So you can use the Kaya login as well that you use on the phone, or you can have a different account for game creation. It's completely up to you. And then you can register as well. So let me go back here. You can register either by using using sort of your name and email, or you can register with Facebook or Kaya. We're adding a Google login as well. But I'm just going to sign in here. And so this is how you get into the game creator, just by going to gamoteca.com and using the sign in button to get to this space. The question about how many roles you want to add, I would suggest at the moment that the system supports up to 4 players. We are going to, so I need to define what I mean by players. So roles, so these are roles in a single team. So in a single team, at the moment, you can have up to 4 roles. We are going to expand that, and a facilitator. So you've got technically 5 roles. But players, there isn't really any restriction, because currently on the Academy portal, there's thousands of users who are playing the games. When you are publishing the games, and I'll show you that in a moment when I show you how to publish games, the same game, so if it's a 2-player game, you can publish that to 50 people, but they will be in 25 teams who are playing this. or they're just individually joining up as you did. So you joined and you invited your player too. So in terms of the number of roles, so these columns represent roles. You can have up to 4 at the moment, but we are looking to expand even more roles within a single team. So hopefully, Lisa, that answers sort of how much you can expand. And I'll show very briefly how people can publish, and then they can see how you can scale up the game to multiple people.
Great. And then I'll jump in with a couple of bigger questions from the chat after we've published.
Sure. So to publish, you just need to go and basically next to the little dots there, or when you're actually here, you can also do it from here too. Just click the publishing. Don't worry, by clicking publish, it doesn't go onto the internet or anything like that. It just makes the game playable, essentially. I would invite you to also read the instructions a bit clearly here. There are about 3 different ways you can publish games. The simplest way is you just publish it, and it allows players to invite their own players, a bit like what you were doing today. There is a random player mode as well, where you invite people to join, but in addition to inviting your own player, you can also just wait for a second player. So that's also possible. And then there's a third mode, which is once you've published the game, you can actually organize game sessions. So this is where you as a trainer, and I'll show you some existing one which I have set up. Or I'll actually do this right now. So you can just organize a game session here where you say, I'm for a workshop demo. I want to, and this is going to be, let's say, online workshop, and I am the organizer, and I click save. So what happens here is now, if some of you who have the app open, if you don't mind joining with this code YBWAGT, or you can use a link. So I'm going to join from my app, but feel free, anyone who has the Gamoteca app open, to just enter the code which you have there, YBWAGT. And you need to click join game as one of the players. So I can see Hazel has joined this as well. And so as more people are able to sort of join with this code, so imagine you're running a workshop, a bit like Kahoot, or sorry, Kahoot is it's a bit similar to what I did today with Mentimeter. Emmanuel has joined as well, but you can basically then move, so I can move myself into a different team, or I can create a new team, or I can remove myself now that I have enough people, and then I can actually start the game. As more people are joining, it'll keep creating more teams here, and I can disable, enable joining once I'm happy. So here, let's say I've got 4 people, I'm going to disable this now, and I'm just going to start the game. So these 4 people the game will just start for them once I click the start button. It might be that I've not published fully, but yeah, it should publish. Okay, yeah, it might be that I've not fully published, but this is basically how you would be able to create a game code and have people join a workshop. So there's a few different formats that you can use. So you can either just have people, join with this link for this new game we've created, and if I just paste it into my browser, or I share this with people and they can join this on the app, and it opens up to this specific game, and they are able to start playing. So that's how on Kaya, the Academy has integrated just with the links, and they've also done an additional integration with their learning platform. But if you're just running a workshop, you can just simply just create an organized session and then invite players. And then the advantage with organizing a session as well is you are able to choose the exact configuration of, okay, here we've also got people already starting to publish as well. But you can also start to choose the exact configuration of how people are playing, and you can sort of have instant and custom game sessions as well. Okay, so maybe I'll stop here, Lisa. I think we have got 15 minutes, so maybe. Sorry, just before we take questions, I just want to point out, I know we've not been able to cover everything that's possible in this call, but just up here inside, you'll also find the help link, where you will find a lot of articles on creating, playing, publishing, monitoring, organizing games. So The goal for this session was not to be a fully in-depth sort of training on Gamoteca, but just to give you a taste of what is possible. So I'd really encourage you to go in and have a look, and then start to maybe use some of the existing templates that are there as well, and build on those, or create your own games. So I will then hand back to Lisa for questions.
Thanks so much, Atish, and thanks everyone for getting involved. It's quite funny to be working with slight sort of time delays and across different devices, but I think we really wanted to challenge ourselves with this webinar to look at different digital tools that we can be using for learning. I want to sort of share two questions, which I think are quite big questions, which have come up through various kind of chat and Q&A functions throughout the webinar, and hopefully, Atish, we can both answer them together. First one is, how does this sort of game-based learning work with other elements? So, for example, if you're running a bigger virtual workshop, or if you already have a course, or maybe in the future you're looking at a face-to-face training. So not only that this game can stand alone, but actually how can we integrate it with other elements? And I can also give some examples there. And then the second question is, what type of learning is this good for? Which I think is a great question when we're thinking about game-based learning, about the type of learning that it can result in. Certainly from the gender assumptions game that I played with one of the attendees on this webinar, I really was able to see a different perspective and to hear things from someone else's viewpoint, which I found really beneficial. So I don't know if you want to have a first stab at answering those questions, and I can drop some links in the chat to some examples of where we've combined games with other courses on Kaya.
Yeah. So the best example, I think I touched on it briefly earlier, was the coaching and mentoring course on Kaya. So there is a I think it's like a 30-minute or 1-hour module on how to be a coach or mentor. We also have there's a chatbot there as well. But the goal here of the game is to be able to practice this coaching skill. So once you've gone through the course, the integrators of coaching and mentoring as a game that the participants can then join. After that, I think another course I think on Kaya is the Volunteer Essentials pathway. So it's quite a long sort of pathway in terms of sort of covering different elements of what you need to be a volunteer. But I think it starts right off with an empathy building game and puts people in the shoes of someone affected by a crisis. So these are two examples that I can share.
Thanks so much, Atish. And I'm just dropping those links in the chat. And yeah, like you were saying, these can be about experience and also the empathy building in the Volunteer Essentials game. This is one way you're trying to decide who to help in the aftermath of a flood. So it's really great in trying to understand those decisions.
Great. Sorry, Lisa. So, do you want me to take another question from there? So I forgot the one after that.
It's about that. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. It's just about the type of learning that these games can result in compared to sort of your traditional online course.
Yeah. So I think in terms of case studies you're seeing in front of you on the screen, yeah, I think that the main goal here was looking at that human-to-human sharing. I think the peer-to-peer learning experience. I think in some of the games, they're all very different, I would say. So in some of them, we focus a lot more on empathy and branching. So this is a single player game on putting yourself in the shoes of someone who has to make these difficult decisions. Onboarding is a gamification where you are supporting someone who's coming on new in the organization, and you are giving different points. So I wouldn't say the game is meant to replace your entire induction program, but it could be used, for example, to add an extra fun element to when a new colleague is coming on board, or to support, let's say, some type of a budding scheme that you have in your organization to encourage more connection between the staff member, the manager, the staff member, and a buddy. And I think the design thinking was, again, very different. That was trying to bring to life was trying to bring to life design thinking as a methodology. We're getting people to gamify it and play it by themselves, but do it ideally in a workshop setting, whether it's a virtual or face-to-face, where they're going through different steps of design thinking, but they're self-reflecting and sharing it, and hopefully getting some feedback from the facilitator. So you'll notice that with a lot of these games, we focused much less on points and rewards in that typical sense of gamification, but focused much more on the collaboration aspects and on the sharing. But we have included points in some of the games too, to include some level of completing of different levels. In the coaching game, we've also added so different types of levels that you can reach. So I think compared to other forms of learning, what this is allowing you to do is include that human-to-human learning, but also make it much more bite-sized, make it much more accessible to users. So I think it's a good complement to more structured, let's say 1 hour, 2 hour modules or face-to-face trainings.
That's great so much. Thanks so much. And yeah, there had been a question earlier about how was the gender assumptions game being scored. So I think that was just automatic progress as you go through. Am I right in understanding that?
Yes, sorry. So as you go through the different screens, so each screen can have a different point score associated with it. So for example, if you want to create like positive or negative outcomes in the games and have or different types of branches that will result in different types of points, so you can create using the choice option in Gamoteca, you can create branches, and as the user takes a different branch, they will get different score based on where they land up. So for example, in the game we were creating, if player 2 had to assess what player 1 had sent them, and then make a choice, and then player 1 saw either one of those options, each of those options could have had a different score associated with it, or points associated with it. And that the points would be dependent on how they, they arrived at that screen. So you can then create some different pathways. So it's not just based on the computer marking you, it's actually based on then another human being also being able to assess you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Atish. I might let you rest from your voice now. I know it's been a lot of speaking and talking through Gamoteca and some of the games that are hosted on Kaya Connect over the last hour. We've still got a few questions coming in, but I might suggest if you want to follow up with either Atish or myself, the emails are at the end of this slide or sort of slide sharing. And I want to sort of respect everyone's time as we begin to wrap up, and maybe even give everyone 5 minutes back, which is always a nice bonus. So here on this slide, you'll see that this is part of a longer webinar series that we're running at the Humanitarian Leadership Academy. So we're looking at a humanitarian learning webinar series. We were getting a lot of questions and requests about how do we adapt some of our learning, some of our training, some of resources very rapidly as we move online or we move to remote learning. So we're putting together this series to share as we're going on, bringing in different subject matter experts to share with you as we work through this together. And I'm really excited that next week we're going to be speaking with Laurie Smith from the innovation organization Nesta, who is a leader in future foresights. So this is about how to plan for uncertainty. How do we start to design things when we don't know what the situation is going to be in 6 months, in a year's time? So we're going to be working through some of those problem statements and seeing how they apply to remote learning and to training online with Laurie together next week. So I really encourage you to join there. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. It's the same as always. So signing up to a Zoom registration link. And then last thing, I really encourage you to claim your badge. So it's been fantastic to read everyone's reflections as they've been claiming their badges over the last couple of weeks. So thank you all for that. Again, I'm just going to drop the link in the chat now. So you should see a couple of links going in up there. The second link, claim your badge via Open Badge Factory. You'll be asked to sort of tick that you have attended the webinar and then provide some reflections about what you took away and how you're going to apply this. So I really encourage you to do that. I think that's everything from my side. Thank you all for your questions, and apologies if we haven't answered them all. And again, thank you for bearing with us through any sort of tech issues. And I hope you do all get the chance to explore the Kaya Connect platform, try out the games that we're hosting, as well as Gamoteca, try out designing some of those games yourself. I think Atish has just dropped his email in the chat if you have any questions about the Gamoteca platform that you want to follow up with. Otherwise, I hope to see you on the webinar next week, and take care, and thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, everyone. It was great chatting.